All right, all right. How y'all doing today? I'm trying to find time to do this for the last 2 weeks, but I'm trying to put this in my schedule to do on an ongoing basis. Those that don't know me, I'm Charles Walk, CEO of Art in the Raw, and today I'm going to be working on Art in the Raw's website, a redesign that I've been working on for probably the last month and a half now, and I'm putting in other features. There's certain things that I'm trying to do with Art in the Raw that haven't been able to do that I'm trying to get around to. So some of the features that I'm adding are going to be adding in a blogging functionality so that artists can be able to create their own blogs. I'm putting in e-commerce functionality so they're able to sell their own merchandise at will without having to worry about paying for it. And then the other feature I'm putting in is a photo gallery so that they can actually put up all of their images of all of their artwork. So those are just things that I had to actually go through a lot of grunge work to get the database set up in order to hold all the information necessary in order to present the UI the way I need to. That's where the title of this video comes into mind, because we're looking at data-driven websites. Whenever I went to a couple of business meetings last week, and every time I tell somebody I'm a web developer, the first thing they say, "Oh, you do websites?" Yeah. Well, I'll make it clear right now. There's a total big difference between websites and web applications, and what my specialty is, and have been for probably the last 15 years, is data-driven websites. Everything is backed by a database. Majority of the functionality is driven by the database, and a lot of the actual user settings, anything. Just think of it like Facebook. Facebook, you go in there and you type in a post. That post information gets saved into a database. Now, how it gets saved into a database on Facebook side, I don't really quite know, but for the most part, they're most likely using a MySQL database, an Oracle database, or a SQL database to store all this information that you get to see on Facebook. And one of the things that I have done with Art in the Raw is put in this functionality so that artists can come and store all of their information into a database. And so one of the things that I'm going to show you guys today is how some of the basic functionalities work with data-driven development. I'm going to be doing a couple of more videos down the road, a little bit more detailed on some of the areas of intricacy, shall I say, the integration aspects of using data-driven development in order to make it work with all kind of applications. And today we're going to be talking about primarily Entity Framework. I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with Entity Framework, but I come from the .NET, Microsoft .NET framework background, and pretty much my whole entire career has been using .NET, and it is one of the most versatile frameworks on the planet, in my opinion. You have Java, which I used to program in Java. They have another framework, that you can use in order to do the same type of thing that .NET does. It's just that it uses Java in order to do it, and over here I'm using C#. So one of the things that I love about Entity Framework is that it does speed up the time that it takes to get your site up and going as far as the database is concerned. Some of the things that I'm going to talk to you today about on the database are using .NET Core, which is a new technology that Microsoft just recently came out with in October. And I've always been working with Microsoft over the years. I used to be partnered with them. I'm partnering with them again now. And so one of the things that I like about Entity Framework is that you can go in and build your database using code first approach, which you can do code first or database first approach, where you can basically take an existing database and convert it into a code model that you can use in C#. And that's kind of what Entity Framework does, is it makes a translation for you from SQL, T-SQL programming language to a C-sharp programming language, so you can actually use model-driven development in order to create your actual application. And that may not make a lot of sense to a lot of people, but model-driven development is based off of you're representing domain models within your actual company. Let's say, I'll give you an example. You have a domain model, which is an employee. You also have a domain model that is a manager, which is actually an inherited class from the actual employee, which is just extended. Now, this all goes way back into object-oriented programming, and for those that don't know anything about object-oriented programming, that's what actually allows you to really add a lot of power to .NET, because that's what .NET uses, is object-oriented programming. And the great thing about it is that you can reuse code, you can actually extend code. There's so many things that you can do with code. And when I say code, I'll show you some code here in a minute, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. But when we're dealing with Entity Framework, one of the things that I love about Entity Framework is this is just to give you guys an idea. I don't know how much knowledge people have that are watching this video. I invited a lot of military folks too, hoping that I would have some of them chime in, because I'm hoping to get some interest so that we can start, training some military soldiers coming out of the military and get them into some of these nice paying jobs here in the civilian sector. So we'll see how this goes. But this is Microsoft Visual Studio. This is an actual IDE. It's an actual integrated development environment. It's an actual tool that Microsoft provides. This version that I am using is the Community Edition. Microsoft does a lot of things for the community. They build a lot of their tools and they offer them free to the public for developers like myself to come and utilize in order to create things. And one of the things that I've always been is a creator. Companies hired me in the past to come in and make their their vision a reality. A lot of people have ideas of what they would like a web application to look like. And when I say web application, we're not just talking about a website. A website is just like, you're putting up HTML, CSS, and images, and a lot of content, which is the actual text that you're actually putting on your website. And when I say data-driven development, we actually have all the actual content stored into the database. So it basically makes it like a content management system. And so you can actually change your content in the database and it will reflect on the browser, on the phone, whatever user interface is actually connected to that database. And so that's the beauty of it. But Visual Studio 2019 preview is the one that I'm using, and it's version 16.5. Now, this is freely available on Microsoft's website. If you go to Microsoft.com and you search for this name right here, it will give you a link where you can actually download this yourself and put it on your desktop, on your laptop, and actually run this. It's actually cross-browser now. I mean, not cross-browser, cross-platform. So now you can actually run this on a Linux machine if that's what you're running on, or it can even run on Mac. The one thing I like about this is it's free, and you can do full application development using this tool. There are other versions that you can pay for that give you a lot more features and functionalities that I don't quite need, so I haven't made that investment, but that is something that I plan on making in the future, for the simple fact that they have a lot of extra features and functionalities that I would like to have in order to test things that I can't currently test because I don't have those features and I would have to pay for them otherwise. So when I need them, I will go and purchase them. But as you see, what's installed with Visual Studio 2019 is these are all the tools that are installed with it, and it's a very user-friendly interface in my opinion, but I've had training on it, so I can't really say that it is easy. So let me leave that up to those that are actually seeing this. So for me, this is an actual IDE that allows you to create different projects, and the project that you're looking at right now is a web app. This is Art Naral's website. This is what I actually have deployed right now on the internet. well, not this version, but a version prior to this. But the one thing that I do like about this is you can create web apps, you can create web services. I create web services. I create database layers, which are basically services that just handle nothing but the database. So I basically have, I have all of my database logic that's already encapsulated within these classes here. And this is what we call classes. These are basically just constructs that basically represent coding for C# that allow you to actually map a entity to the database. So in the database, you will see things like, let me show you the database. I'm using SQL Server. For those that aren't familiar with SQL Server, it's a database management tool that Microsoft also provides. It's not free, or shall I say, the Management Studio is free, but the actual database you have to pay for depending on what you need. Right now, I'm using the free version, which comes with a 2 gig limit, which doesn't allow you for much growth, but it allows you to do testing and playing around. And since I'm a developer, this is exactly what I do. Sorry. All right, so I can log into the database, which this database is on my hosted server with GoDaddy. So I'm just connecting to it remotely. And remotely, I have a total of 3 databases. I have a membership database. I have another database for my Blazing SQL application, and then I have the Art and Raw database. And in the Art and Raw database, if you open up tables, you'll be able to see the actual tables that reflect what these classes you see here are. So Entity Framework basically takes these classes and maps them to the tables so that you can basically don't have to worry about writing SQL queries, which I can show you what a SQL query is. Let me go here and select. So basically, from a database standpoint, in order to get data from the database, you would have to run a query, which is basically a select statement, which pulls data from that table. And all of these are tables, so I can pull data from one table or multiple tables depending on what I'm needing. If I need multiple tables, I can perform joins. Now, all of that is wonderful, and I've had experience with it. I actually went through training for being a DBA, so I can write the queries, but when you're having to context switch, which is what they call that, when you have to switch in between multiple languages, which I happen to know too many languages to really tell you all about right now, but sometimes it's hard being able to context switch in between. And when you're coding in C# and making web apps, it's preferable to have an object model to utilize, and then I just allow Entity Framework to take care of mapping that data to the database. And that's where the power of using Entity Framework really comes in handy. And it really reduces a lot of the time that you have to spend, because from a DBA standpoint, I have to write some stored procedures, which I still plan on doing for these tables so that I can run more efficient queries with Entity Framework. But for the meantime, I'm going straight to the database and pulling straight from the tables using Entity Framework's DB context. Now, I'll tell you all about the DB context here, but this is basically the database. These are the tables that you see referenced here in my actual project here. And these are just classes that get mapped to the actual database. Like, let's say, for instance, in the comment, I'll go and open up comments, log comments, come on. And these are all the fields that are in the blog comments table, and they should all refer to the same field that you see here. There's the text, there's the date created, and there's the date modified. So from a coding standpoint, all I have to do is deal with storing data within this actual abstract class, and well, not this abstract class, but an actual concrete class, and then that information would get passed to Entity Framework, and they would take that information and store it in the database as such. And that's why I really love it. It cuts down a lot of time. So today we're going to go look at some of the things that I am implementing in Art in the Raw version 2. Like I said, I'm introducing a blog. With a blog, there's going to be a lot of functionality that I add to a blog as time goes on. But for right now, I just want to have the ability to link it to a user and then allow them to enter in their information. And so I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I want to implement this, because I want it to be very easy, and artists will be able to create as many blogs as they want. And we'll track this over time because it'll be stored in the database, and then they can have history based off the blogs that they've actually posted. One of the other things that I'm considering doing is putting in a timeline functionality, but I'll visit that one later on. We have the gallery. I have a table that represents the gallery that actual users will be able to store their information pertaining to their gallery, like the gallery name. They can name the gallery whatever they want. They can give it a description. We'll have a date when it was created. If they go in and modify their gallery with new pictures, then they can actually go and do that. And then we also have a collection of gallery images that they get to upload to the actual site in order to have stored into the database that reflect all the images for this gallery. So each artist will be able to create as many galleries as they want. It's just unlimited. And then that way they can have galleries that span history for all the actual art galleries that they go to, and take pictures, and they can upload all this to the actual website. So it's just trying to give artists a lot more flexibility as to what they can actually do on the site, and give them some interesting things that they can actually try to achieve out in the world, and then upload it and show the world. So we also have geolocation, which I'm kind of contemplating whether I even want to work with that or not. Geolocation, every time that somebody comes to the website, I can gather information based off of where the person's coming from, and then that way I can build a complete map of where people are, so you can actually see them on a physical map. Like, we'll probably have some little icons that actually show on the actual map that show where individuals are on the site as they connect to the website, which I just thought would be, fun to add, but not really quite sure if I want to dedicate time to building that out, but we'll see. Each one of the actual artists will be able to store a home address. They'll be able to store a profile image. They'll be able to create a project template, which a project template is going to give them the ability to list all the projects that they've done over their lifetime if they want to. And each one of these projects can be defined based off of, let's say, for instance, they had a project where they were doing a gallery showing, and they had 200 pictures. Well, they can set up a project detailing what that event was about, and then upload all those images, and it'll be mapped to this actual project, which I think will be interesting for them to be able to show all the actual gallery shows that they've gone to in the past. And then we got the social accounts. Each one of the artists will be able to input whatever social accounts that they have, and those will be able to be displayed under their profile information on the site. And I'll be storing all that in this table. And it's just keeping just some basic information. I'm trying not to keep anything too detailed unless the artist asks for it, because I'm not really trying to collect data. I'm just trying to store it for the means of the application. But then we have our user bio. This is going to give each one of the users the ability to put in their date of birth, where they were born. Going to be able to put in where they lived over time. They may have lived in Arkansas and New York and Chicago and Mexico, wherever. They'll be able to put all those addresses in here and be able to reference those in their bio, so people can know the history of whoever the individual is. And then we have the same with the user profile. The user profile is just going to be an extension off of the membership, which is going to allow me to store all the detailed information about the users so that they can upload all their data And then this piece is going to be interesting because I have a functionality in that's going to encrypt all this, and not even I can decrypt it, and that's on purpose. But I'm doing that so that I can secure all the artist information from hackers in the event that I ever get hacked. I don't want anybody's information ever getting stolen, and if it does, it'll be all encrypted, just like I like it. So this information is going to be decrypted only by the user with a special key that they get to choose. So that's the reason why I can't decrypt it. So they get to choose the key, they get to encrypt it, and they get to decrypt it. And so when they leave the site, they can take all their data with them or just completely remove it and then delete their account, and then they can go on about their business. And I'll show you where all that is here too. So this is the data model that I'm dealing with Entity Framework, and this allows me to drive a lot of the data-driven development with Art in the Raw. And now, Art in the Raw is more than just a website. It's actually a platform. My whole goal here was to develop a platform for artists to be able to showcase their artwork, and do it the best way possible using technology, common modern technology. And I am on a mission to accomplish that. And so just to show you how all this is going to work, let's start the application up just to show you what it looks like. I've made a lot of changes. The front page is totally different. What happened? What's going on? No. That was interesting. Anyway, this is Art in the Raw's new website. This is the new redesign. I hope you guys like it. I really wanted this right here. This picture you see here is done by Kyle Hort, one of the artists that is on the platform. He is showcased because he is the first artist to come and be on the Art in the Raw platform. And it's been out for over a year, so I guess it just took a while. But anyway, this is his artwork. He's working on other artwork as we speak, and so as he comes out with it, he'll be able to upload it. I have disabled. There was a link up here for artists. I've disabled that because it's under construction. So I'd rather not be available than to show up under construction page. So that will be hopefully back up before the end of next month as I roll out all the extra features. And there's just a couple of UI things that are user interface things that I have to do. So this is basically the site. There's a link to Blazing SQL, which is the other app that I've been working on. Blazing SQL was a concept that I came up with, back in 2008. When I was trying to figure out a way to connect to a remote database in the cloud, and was having difficulties connecting to it with the actual local instance that I had. And so I ended up talking to a GoDaddy representative just to find out that they don't open up the ports to your database unless you have a secure socket. So they kind of set me up with a VPN, and that way I was able to go through that way. And then at the time I was thinking, this is kind of a difficult process here. So I started looking into other ways in order to come up with a way to connect to my database without having to go through that VPN process. And I discovered through my research that Microsoft offered a API that allowed you to actually connect to SQL Server and do pretty much anything that SQL Server can do using the API. So I did my investigation and experimentations and discovered that, man, I can actually create a user interface that mimics a lot of what SQL Server does on the desktop, and thus creating the first web-based SQL Server management tool on the planet. So I'm actually excited about it. It's something that I dreamed about way back in 2008, and the reason that it didn't happen in 2008 is because the technology wasn't ready. I was trying to use ASP.NET MVC, which wasn't working very well. It was very slow, very agitating, to be honest with you. I tried using a JavaScript, all JavaScript front-end library, which was from EXTJS, to create the user interface. It looked beautiful. I made it look almost identical to what SQL Server looks like. I got a lot of response from GoDaddy. I got a lot of response from some third-party companies that were very interested in it. But at the time, I didn't release it, and I didn't do any further development because it was slow as molasses. And my experience shows that that type of performance doesn't call for any further development necessary. So I kind of closed down that project, and then didn't really, shall I say, I didn't even really entertain it at all until just recently when Microsoft did a news release of their new experimental technology called Blazor. And so I started looking into Blazor and found out that Blazor, which is what you see right here in front of you, is a WebAssembly programming language that allows you to create user interfaces in the browser, almost like desktop, using regular standard HTML. So I was excited about it because it excludes having to use JavaScript for the majority of your work. You can still use JavaScript, and I don't have a problem with JavaScript. I've coded with JavaScript, man, ever since 1993. So JavaScript is just something that I just normally do, but it's still a hindrance sometimes. It's a battle when you're dealing with bugs and oh man, bugs. But this has removed a lot of my bugs, and I have been very excited about it. There's a lot of differences in the development pattern from a standard web app, because this is using a single page application architecture, which allows you to have one page represent your interface, and it makes calls in the background to get data, and then it changes your interface right there in front of you, instead of going back to the database, getting HTML, and then changing your content on the browser. Love it. I have been enjoying it. I can't wait to get more back into it, but right now I'm focusing on Art in the Raw. So back to Art in the Raw. There's our link to the store. Here's our link to register. So every user that comes to Art in the Raw can register. I have no discrimination against anybody. Everybody is open to come and set up your own account and input your information if you want to. I think I have an account already. Yep. So once you log in, you're able to go in there. There'll be another link for the artist, which it doesn't have right now, but you'll be able to go in and make changes to your account. You can update your profile, you can update your email, you can change your password, you can enable two-factor authentication, and then here's the personal data area that I was telling you about. And this is the area that's going to allow you to go in here and say, hey, I want to delete all my information, and I want to download it and delete it. And that's going to be the functionality that goes in and removes everything from the database that belongs to you. So that's the functionality that I really wanted in there, and I finally got it in there. So that's the capabilities of the application as it stands today. And just to show you some code on how all this is getting together, each one of the pages for this website is almost like an individual page. Okay, so this is the front page that you see when you first come to the site. Here we are. This is all HTML, and I've been trying to get people on board to learn HTML and JavaScript, and I can teach folks, but if people aren't willing, I can't help. So I've been trying to work with folks. I have some folks I work with online that I try to empower with knowledge as much as I can to help them to obtain their goals. But HTML really is the future development interface construct for the future, because when you really look at it, it pretty much flows from every aspect of cross browser, cross platform, because this is just basically just strings. It's just text, and with text, it can go across all mediums, which makes it very, very powerful and very, very useful for creating user interfaces. And the flexibility of HTML gives you the ability to use CSS in order to make your application look and feel the way you want it to. There's a lot of look and feel. Right now, you're just seeing text. I'm using CSS, Bootstrap configurations in order to put in functionality for what Bootstrap offers, which for those that aren't aware, all you got to do is go to Bootstrap. Yeah, let's go here. And you can just actually go to and see what the functionality of Bootstrap. They give you, ideas of what the actual interface items can look like. These are all things that I can pull that are just HTML and put into my page, just like so, and change this to whatever I want it to be, and I still get the same functionality. So as you go through here with Bootstrap, you realize it makes interface development so much easier. You can have a breadcrumb functionality set up if you're creating an e-commerce website, which I've had to create so many of those in the past. This really helps simplify that aspect, so you have a breadcrumb so that people can step back to where they left. So they're on data, they can go back to library and then go back to home. You got drop downs, you got a carousel. So if you want to have images sliding, you can do sliders. It makes it really easy to have your presentation have different images that have this sliding functionality that users can navigate. Then you have collapse, functionality where you can have collapsible areas of content that show and don't show. I mean, there's just so many user interface components here that you can use in your software development that makes this so much easier to do. And of course, there's a lot of things that are more complex than you want to have. It depends on what kind of application you're developing. I've pretty much developed enterprise applications for Fortune 500 companies all my entire career, pretty much. I've worked for enterprise companies pretty much the whole entire time. I have never really worked for I've worked for one small business, and that was a startup. And that was a experience. I'll just put it that way. It was an experience. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And I would do some things differently if I had to do it all over again. But the learning was priceless. So this is the front page. And then we have a privacy page, which I haven't finished filling out yet because I'm trying to determine with anything that you do for the public, you got to have a privacy page in order to tell everybody, how this actual website is operating. What are we trying to steal your information and give it to the foreign government, or kind of things like that. They just want to, us to specify what our policy is for this website. So I already have that already done. It's actually on Google Docs. I just gotta take it from Google Docs and transfer it over here, which I would rather not do, which I'm still trying. That's why I'm contemplating, because I'd rather just have a link to Google Docs and then I can just have one instance of it so I don't have to keep doing updates. I don't like replication. I don't. Or should I say, I don't like duplication, not replication. I do like replication. I don't like duplication. I think that's it that I wanted to really talk about today. The data-driven aspect of things is let's talk about a page. That's what I wanted to do. The first area that we are actually dealing with is on the index. In the index, we have a form on here. This is the contact form. This contact form is actually hooked up to the database. Now, what happens is, I'll go ahead and show you what this does. Contact forms are real easy. Once you get the structure in, just hook them up to the database. It takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on if you got the database already set up. But down here, I got a form. I'm gonna go ahead and fill it in with my information. Let's go ahead and info. There we go. And blah 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 blah. And then we send it, and it goes into the database and returns a message that basically says, "Thank you for contacting us, and we'll talk to you soon." And then if I go to the database in my contact us's table. Here are all of my contacts that have been submitted. So this is, and then at the same time, I have it coded using email functionality that I just put in. Man. Oh, in my shared, I have a, I had to create, not here. In my shared, I created a post office namespace where I have an actual mail service in there, and the mail service is responsible for sending email out. Now it's just doing regular send email, and I just package it up into a nice object of mail message, which consists of email, subject, the HTML message, and the from and to. And these are the functions that take care of sending the email out. So when I just did that contact us and did the send, it sent an email to me. So if I go to come on. All right, once I log into my email, I should have an email. Where is my email? That's an interesting one. Ah, there it is. It went into my junk mail. Okay. Dang, it went into my junk mail. I didn't even know I had other stuff here. Anyway, okay. So you'll get an email that says, "Thank you for contacting." The same message you pretty much see right there on the screen. But everybody will get an email. So that's how that functionality works. And I think that was about it. So I hope this helped you guys understand a little bit more about data-driven development versus websites. Websites are just more static pages that you actually use. You have a designer who creates that for you. A designer puts them in place, and then you put your website up. A web developer actually takes the designer's work and your work or whoever's work, and then puts coding behind it in order to connect it to databases, to integrate with third-party APIs like Twitter and Instagram and you name it. So I hope this helps. Anybody have any questions, feel free to leave a note in the comments, and I will try to respond, and send me a DM or what have you. Hope this helped. Take care.
Nice. Good job, baby.
Oh, thank you, baby.